In this video, we'll discuss the features on Aileen Wuornos' face that point to life force depletion, as well as markers for volatility and unpredictability. Enjoy. In today's face reading video, we are looking at the convicted serial killer named Aileen Wuornos. So she was executed, I believe, in 2002 in Florida. She had a very checkered past, a very rough upbringing, and was, I believe, prostituting on various highways in Florida, and through that process ended up killing a series of men, I think 7 total. So dark story, nothing particularly pleasant about reading about these kinds of things and looking into it, but she was suggested by one of my subscribers. And when we read people like this, the thing in face reading is, while this is a health practice and a life nourishing practice, that's what face reading ultimately is, we do have to study pathology, how things can go awry, what we can see in the face in terms of health discrepancies, life force discrepancies, what's taking energy from us and not bolstering life force. So she's got a number of health depleting metrics and some what I would call not unlucky features, but things that you have to be mindful of in terms of aggression. So there's some things that we can see and things that I would be cautious about if this was a person that I was around. That being said, if you're new to my channel, welcome, but please go up here and watch the 5-minute crash course face reading video if you're new. This is a branch of Chinese medicine, and there are some terms and terminology that I will likely use in this video that will have you lost if you're not familiar with them. So again, if you're new, please go watch that. When I was looking at Aileen Wuornos' face, one of the things that I noticed was the countenance of the eyes, and specifically something that she's carrying called Saku. There are 2 types of Saku, and if you want to watch a video on what Saku is, you can go up here and check that video out. But Saku is a term that refers to the 3 whites of the eye. So if a person, like in this video, if I'm looking at you level in the camera, I have 2 whites on the outside, right? The iris sits in the middle, but there's 2 whites. Now, the second I tilt my head down, you can see the bottom white, and that's called the 3rd white. And if I do it like this, where the upper whites are shown, that's called yang Saku. So when the bottom whites show, that's yin Saku. The upper one like that makes you look kind of crazy, that's yang Saku. So again, go watch that video. You can check that out about what Saku is. But in the big picture, Saku is about life force depletion. There is a leakage of life force. When people carry this feature, it's sort of like the light of the eyes is flooding out. And if you think of light, immaterial light, the feeling, the energy that comes out of people's eyes, it should come out sort of like a clear laser beam. It should be straight, direct, and forward. That's the thinking. And the whites of the eyes sort of harness that light to a degree. Now, these are kind of like images and metaphors. I don't want you to take this literally, but when the whites show, it's sort of like the floodlights. The light is leaking excessively, okay, from the top or bottom. If we do it like this, the same thing. We have that energy coming in and out of the eyes. The whites should be balanced. So for one, she carries this, the yang Saku. When the tops of the whites show like that too, that is more aligned with aggressive tendencies, volatility in emotion, and unpredictability in the personality. There's something that's kind of precarious and volatile and can blow easily. So in reading about her, this definitely follows suit. You know, when we look at people's faces and we're kind of assessing features, we have to ask ourselves, well, how much of this was natural wiring that she was just came into the world with, and how much of it was shaped into her given her experiences? It's really hard to say. So in any case, she's got this marker. When we have Saku, the thing I tell people is your lifestyle and all of your lifestyle metrics in relation to face reading and your elements really need a massive overhaul. It doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily die early, but what it means is you are leaking, and you're leaking at the spirit level usually more than you know, and it can sneak up on you. And that leakage can take on a lot of different forms. So it can come in terms of bad luck, bad experiences, bad relationships, bad jobs. It can come from health problems that are kind of chronic and that sneak up on you faster than they should. You have to just kind of assess and go through those things, but lifestyle overhaul, working with a face reader, working with functional medicine people, it's pretty important if you've got Saku, the yin Saku or yang Saku. So that's just a cautionary marker there. Now, She's also got pretty sizable bags under the eyes. So her eyes in a number of pictures, sometimes it's more stark than others. But when we see that these big like shadows under the eyes, we want to be paying attention to the kidney and liver systems. So immediately under the eye, sort of at the eyelid, the lower eyelid, that relates more to the bladder energy. But when we get down into this slightly darker area here, there's going to be ties to the kidneys and again, sometimes the liver as well. So when we see this, there is an overuse of the kidney system. That means that the emotions that go with the water element, the kidney system, we're looking at fear, panic, and dread. Okay, the positive side is awe, fascination, and wonderment. So in what I'm reading, again, nothing psychic or predictive, but as I'm looking at her background and looking at her life, what I was seeing is that likely fear, panic, and dread were pervasive throughout her life, given her circumstances, what she was doing, the type of work that she was engaging, the very unsavory people that she was choosing to dialogue with. So those systems, okay, will become taxed and burdened if we overuse them. If we underuse them, they can also be burdened. But again, just looking at life terrain and what I was seeing, chances are that fear, panic, and dread was in hyperdrive with her, and it really shows through the eyes. So again, the things that would remedy that, okay, in theory with a person is if they are excessively using fear, panic, and dread, fascination, awe, and wonderment are the positive side, which will replenish, harmonize, and balance the kidney energy. So, had she been alive and, if I was giving her supportive help, these are the things that I would be kind of pushing in her direction. Now, let's talk about the aggression component. So I did mention that some of these aggressive tendencies can be seen in the face. She's got two primary ones. The first one that I talked about was the yang sanpaku. When you see that, that's one metric where we can see volatility and some danger. The other one, interestingly enough, is in the nose, but specifically when the nostrils can be seen when the head is level. Okay, so what you can kind of call the general term, not in face reading, they call it, but a pig nose, basically, where someone's nose turns up and you can see the holes, basically. The question is why? Why does face reading associate seen nostrils when the head is level, when you can see the nostrils? Why is that aligned with aggressive tendencies? And specifically, it relates to the elemental breakdown of the nose. So the nose relates to the metal element. The metal element houses the lungs. And this is where we start getting into the lens of Chinese medicine a bit. Each of the organ systems each of the elements houses an animal. And the reason that the Chinese attached certain animals to an organ system was because it was a way to code information. If you look at the behavior of an animal and what they do in their ecosystem and what they do in their environment, basically it was a way to teach, and it was a way to help people remember, well, because we're an offshoot of nature and the natural world is a part of us and we connect to it, we're going to have some congruency with the things outside of us, like certain animals. And so they would attach animals to organ systems so that people could understand how to bolster life force and how to nourish life. So the nose, the metal element, houses something called the white tiger. The white tiger is this image of our animalistic tendencies. It's said that the lungs are where we breathe. It's where we, so if we're working hard, we're exercising, the lungs are really crucial. And if we don't breathe appropriately, our animalistic tendencies can get the best of us. So you can think of this in terms of people who breathe shallow. People who consistently and chronically breathe shallow have a lot of panic and anxiety. They have like anxiety disorders because they're not breathing well. They're very nervous people. What that's code for in Chinese medicine is this is a timid tiger that is not being exercised. It's not getting to roam. So people that have a lot of anxiety, in Asia, when they work with people around this, it's like breathing exercises are number one, which is exercising the tiger. This is why they put people into things like martial arts and that get them breathing heavily. So the idea is that the nose is the marker for the metal element and the white tiger, and it houses this. The nostrils are seen as doorways. It's the doorways that allow air to come into the lungs. Yes, it's where we take in oxygen, but it's also symbolic of like two cave doors for the tiger's exit. When we have large nostrils, it's said that we have good lung function. We can take in a lot of air and also expel. There's something good about having large nostrils, but when they're seen this way, when the nose tips up this way, it's sort of like that tiger has a propensity to run out and charge at inopportune times and sort of exits its domain in a less than favorable way. So I know that sounds kind of strange and odd, and it's not going to be true for everybody because that's not how face reading works. But I have seen over the years a number of people that I've worked with, and then friends of friends, or they show me a picture of a person. I know a woman years back who had to get a restraining order from a guy who was very violent and unpredictable, and he had a very dominant upturned nose with very large nostrils. And again, don't read that in any person you see. Don't think, oh, they're just an aggressive asshole. Don't think that. But you do want to pay attention to it. So Aileen Wuornos has a mixture of this. She's got the yang sampaku with that upturned nose. She's got these depletion in the kidneys. There's a lot of conflicting factors with her face that really show that her life terrain was not good for her. She didn't have a lot of life bolstering things happen in her life. It's a very sad story. Again, you can read about her and go into all of those things. Now, the other last thing that I will touch on, and I'm not going to get too deep into this, are her teeth. So the teeth are an offshoot of the kidney system. You want to think each of the elements and each of the organ systems all have correspondences to deeper tissues in the body. So the kidneys and the water element, they actually have ties to our bone structure, and the teeth are basically like the only place in our body where the bones are visible. It's like basically like our water element bone system on display in the mouth. So you can think of the teeth as basically kidney energetics. That's what they're a symbol for. When we see really jagged, misshapen teeth, people's teeth crowd a lot more now at this stage in history because we're eating a lot more soft foods. We're not chewing on things. And so people's jaws and their teeth don't form as well. But, just because you have crooked teeth doesn't mean you're a serial killer. No, it doesn't. That's not, again, how face reading works. But her teeth are dominant. We do see some very jagged, erratic patterning in the teeth. And when we see that coupled with other life depleting metrics, that can be sort of a recipe for like the Jing or the constitutional strength or the essence from the kidneys and the bone expression is not going as well because the kidneys relate to Jing and our deep genetic reservoir. So again, these are sort of just like these little like ding, 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 dings, like on the alarm systems where I would be watching and looking at a person. But again, given her life terrain, what I'm seeing, these are the things and the diagnostics that I would be exploring. And, if she was a person that I was working with, there would be a lot of strategies around how to nourish the kidneys, how to, remediate the water element, and how to resolve trauma. That's a big one because her face has that shell-shocked look. When a person has that kind of stuck in the headlights, deer in the headlights look, that's all a result of unresolved trauma. It's how the spirit in Chinese medicine dissociates from the body. So when a person has something traumatic happen to them, it's almost like the shen or the spirit displaces outside the body. And when it does that and it kind of sits slightly outside the flesh, there's kind of a blank look of shock or that kind of 1,000-yard stare. And she has that. So a lot of trauma in there. All right, y'all. That's all I got for today. Thanks for your time.